Nobody is trying to say that Mr. Ponte caused the injury to that individual. The individual who is alleged to cause the injury has been arrested. I believe he's still in custody. His name is Ian Kramer. He's a co-defendant in this case. Secondly, there were a number of individuals charged. I think there were 5 charged total. They were all. First of all, I don't believe Mr. Ponte identifies or is a member of any organization called Patriot Prayer. I'm aware that there is such an organization, but Mr. Ponte is not a member of that organization if that organization keeps members. Mr. Ponte was there on that day, on May 1st. This was a smaller part of a much larger series of demonstrations. They went through the whole downtown area. At the time, kind of the end of the series of demonstrations, Mr. Ponte and some people he was with, some of them are co-defendants in this case, they participated in a flag-waving demonstration or ceremony that was on the bridge that goes over the 405. It's on about 12, right between the same, I can't remember what the other cross street is. They then headed up to this particular bar, which is on about 7th and Cooch. It's called Cider Riot, and that's a place that has been a popular hangout for a lot of people associated with Antifa. There certainly was a confrontation, and the confrontation was not just confined to the people with Mr. Ponte or Mr. Ponte. The other people who were involved on the other side of this, the people who were in the bar, they also responded with pepper spray. They responded with homemade weapons. They responded with bricks being thrown. So whether I guess you could say Mr. Ponte made the correct choice in being there on that day in question, I mean, I don't know. He is here and he is taking responsibility, and there is a very good reason for the no contest plea, not that just Mr. Ponte doesn't want to admit he's guilty, but Mr. Ponte is being sued by the owner of that particular establishment, and the no contest plea is, of course, the reason for the no contest plea is because of the outstanding, still going on civil litigation portion of it. So while Mr. Ponte wants to take responsibility, wants to get this behind him, and wants to go on with his life, he also has this ongoing civil litigation. So he really can't plead guilty given the charges. The other thing I wanted to mention just about the incident itself, Mr. Huey showed the court a video with Mr. Ponte supposedly punching an individual with a guitar. Having watched hours and hours of video footage from different points of view from this particular incident, and I will say that I don't think the state's showing the court everything on the video, but just in the part that you could see the person slung the guitar, and then Mr. Ponte engaged with him. And I can't say if there's actually, well, there was I guess a punch thrown. I don't think he landed it. And later on in the video, you can actually see Mr. Ponte and that other individual who's unknown to us kind of make up, because there was apparently that guy was just kind of watching and didn't want to get involved. What you saw in the video was basically what had happened was essentially each side sort of brought out a person, and they kind of had just like an ongoing mixed martial arts fight in the street until one of them decided to give up, and then they all turned around and left. So it was there definitely was a part where there was stuff going back and forth, and there was pepper spray going back and forth. But the whole thing kind of ended up in sort of both sides dispersing. Because of staffing issues, interestingly enough, the police never intervened, although they sort of monitored it, but nobody ever, despite there being numerous 911 calls, there was never any kind of police response to speak of in this case. But finally, again, going back to the jail time, it is, Mr. Ponte, we talked about the community service. I would like Mr. Ponte to be able to do the community service at a place of his choosing. I think people tend to get more out of it when they do that. I talked to Mr. Ponte about the state's really the state kind of making the mandatory, the community service in Multnomah kind of mandatory. We can live with that. Mr. Ponte can figure out how to get his community service done in Multnomah County. I do think that's something that is typically not asked for or insisted on by the state. Because, I mean, I guess if you think about it, anybody's criminal conduct impacts the county, but we don't make it mandatory that they do their community service in a particular county, and while that's probably going to be inconvenient for my client, he's willing to live with that. But what he is really concerned about is keeping his job, being able to keep his apartment, being able to work, and those are all reasons why that's important not to impose any jail time. There was a similarly situated co-defendant by the name of Matthew Demi Cooper, who I believe was sentenced this morning with Judge Lucero at 8:30, and I don't believe, and I do think the two of them are similarly situated. I believe they were charged with the exact same crimes. And Mr. Cooper, my understanding is, did not get jail time. I don't know if Mr. Hugh covered that. If he did, and that's contrary to what happened, and I'm sure he'll fill us in. But that is, I don't think Mr. Ponte has anything to say. Mr. Ponte, do you? Mr. Ponte says no, he does not.
All right, thank you both. So as a 6F on the grid block, Mr. Ponte, you were sentenced to 36 months of formal probation. You were required to complete 120 hours of alternative community service. That can be at a registered nonprofit of your choosing. There is a requirement, it sounds like you have agreed to, that it be completed in Multnomah County. I find that that's appropriate because riot is a public order crime, and so it's a crime committed against the public in Multnomah County. So that requirement does make sense to me. You are not allowed to participate in any unpermitted marches, protests, or demonstrations in Multnomah County for the duration of your probation. And I'm finding that condition, in addition to the fact that you have agreed to it, is reasonably related to the underlying crime for which you were convicted. And I am going to sentence you to 10 days in jail, credit for time served. You can turn yourself in, and weekends are okay. You need to go after court to set up your jail service schedule. I'm going to make the 120 hours of community service due within 1 year of this date. Your probation officer will have the discretion to require that be done earlier, but in terms of the formal sentence, it needs to be done within 1 year of this date of sentence, and it is your obligation to provide proof on letterhead from a registered nonprofit that you've done a community service. I'm going to waive the court-appointed attorney's fee, and I'm going to impose the $250 conviction fee. Is that what it is for? 200. Okay, the $200 conviction fee based on the information provided that you are working 6 days a week. Is there anything else I need to address with regard to the sentence?
Just that the state will move to dismiss count 2.
Okay, and so Mr. Ponte, count 2 is now dismissed, that's gone forever as part of your agreement with the state.
And Judge, I'd ask 18 months on the community service. Given the fact that he's going to have to do 10 days in jail, that's going to take about 3 months if he's only able to do it 1 day a week. And again, Mr. Ponte is working full time.
Okay, Mr. Sar, that is a reasonable request. So we will give you a date 1.5 years from now. Okay, so your community service is now due by July 13th, 2021, unless it's modified and made earlier. by your probation officer.
They will tell you that, yeah, here's what you're going to do. Show you. Yeah, you did. Okay, this is the name of your So,
Thanks for doing that.
you'll, probably have to go get some here, so.